I think we're going to go ahead and get started. It's about 6:35. Our presentation is not long tonight, but it is content rich. And I hope that we'll be able to address some of your questions as well. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jim Taylor, and I'm the interim principal here at Cedar Brook this year. And we're joined on our panel tonight by our two wonderful assistant principals, my extraordinary colleagues and good friends, Adicia Cohen-Johnson and Byron Ryan. And they're going to be monitoring the Q&A. They'll be able to respond in real time if there are questions that we have the answers to. And if not, we will gather those questions at the end of our evening and put it into an FAQ and turn it around pretty quickly to get that information out to you. The other thing you need to know is that our webinar tonight is being recorded so that you can go back and refer to it at any time, and we'll archive it on the district website as well, so those families who weren't able to join us tonight will have access to the same information that you do. So again, welcome, and we're glad you're here. Thanks for making the time for us. So you might be wondering why we're even testing. As you know, last year, our PSSAs and Keystones were waived by the State Department, Pennsylvania Department of Education, due to the onset of the global health pandemic, global health crisis. So here we are a year later at, some say, nearing the possible end of it. Who knows at this point? The virus has a mind of its own. But the Pennsylvania Department of Education has received a directive from the United States Department of Education mandating that all school districts administer annual state assessments this year. They've given us some flexibility in how we administer it and when we administer it, but it's pretty non-negotiable that they do have to be given. Oftentimes the assessment, the state assessment, is used as an evaluative component for school districts, for teachers. It gives lots of good data. We'll still have access to that data, but it's intended to be, then this is a direct quote from the communication, a source of information for parents and educators to target resources and support, rather than accountability plan for the year, because it's been a year, as you know, like none other. Last week, I was able to send to you via my Friday communications with you these two documents that have hyperlinks here around frequently asked questions about both the Keystone exams and the PSSA. So I hope you've had an opportunity to review that. If you haven't, I certainly understand. It doesn't necessarily make for riveting bedtime reading, but there is important information linked there. I'll be happy to send those out again later tomorrow or Thursday, so you'll have all the information you need to make an informed decision as we're going forward. So you might be asking yourself, who is testing this year? In Pennsylvania, all students enrolled in grades 3 to 8 participate in the PSSA or the PASA. The PASA is the alternative assessment given really to our students who are the most severely cognitively challenged. A very small minority of our population receives the PASA. All students in grades 3 through 8 take the math assessment and the English language arts assessment. Students in grades 4 and 8 have the additional bonus of taking the science assessment. All students enrolled in the courses here, Algebra 1, English 10, and Biology, will also participate in the Keystone exams. This could include students in grades 7 to 12. The way it would impact Cedar Brook is if a student is taking Algebra 1. We do not obviously offer English 10 or Biology. So if you have a student taking Algebra 1 this year, they will take the Keystone exam in addition to the PSSA in English, language arts, and in math. And if they're taking Algebra 1 in an 8th grade, they'll take English, math, science, and the Keystone exam. Parents and guardians certainly have the option of opting out of testing. We're still working out what that procedure is. As you know, if you read the FAQ, the opting out reason must be for religious reasons, religious purposes. You're welcome to go to the administration building, take a look at the test, and then opt out. You don't have to provide a why you're opting out, but the reason is, the acceptable reason is for religious reasons, is why the exemption is provided. And that's in the, a fuller explanation is in the FAQ. I know I should pause here and say, I know that some of you have written to me via email that you are choosing to have your student opt out of the PSSA and or the Keystone testing. That's fine to give me that information, and I will be in touch with you once we have firmed up the opt-out procedure and when the test will be available for you to review at the administration building. But there is a more formalized procedure other than getting in touch with me, although I'm always happy to hear from you. The testing environment is very important because it's a standardized test. The test needs to be given under standardized, in a standardized environment. So all participants will test in person. There is no option. If you have a student who is enrolled in the hybrid model and is a fully remote student, there is no option if you want your child to take the test for them to take the test at home. They must come into the building to take the test and adhere to the regulations and stipulations and guidance of our health and safety plan, which includes the daily filling out of the Qualtrics COVID-19 information screening. Testing will be completed using a district-issued Chromebook. All of our students have district-issued Chromebooks. If you're coming in and don't have one, a Chromebook will be provided for you and for your student. The software needed for that is provided on the district computer, not through a home computer. And I keep looking out the window because we have some visitors who are left over from basketball practice who are still here, which is riding their bikes around. So it's nice to see them wanting to come to school after hours and use our grounds. But back to the presentation. So testing will be completed using the district Chromebook. And because this is the first time that students will be taking these examinations or assessments online, we want to give them plenty of opportunity to practice all the features that'll be available to them. How to change an answer, how to enter a short sentences or phrases, how to solve a math problem, how to graph, how to use a calculator. All those tools students will need to be well versed in. And so we will provide plenty of opportunities for students to practice using those features through our WIN classes when we come back from spring break. Again, there's a link here that if you are having your student take these tests, here's a resource that they can use to practice with some of those tools. I have to say, I remember when I took my state licensing exam for school leadership, it was given online. And I was more nervous about taking it online than I was about the exam itself. just because I wasn't familiar with all the features. So we want to make sure that our students don't have the same experience I did and that they are comfortable with all the tools. Our testing sessions can be paused for breaks, and students who are taking the test will be provided lunch on the test taking days. Again, we know that some of our students who are at home, who are fully remote in our instructional model, will want to take the test. Again, as I said before, at-home testing is not an option, and your student will need to come to Cedarbrook for that test and on those testing days. Again, lunch will be provided for all students on the days of testing. And here it says transportation is being explored for testing days. We do have an update that the school district will provide transportation to remote-only students who are coming into the building to take tests. Again, you're welcome to bring them to school if that's what you choose, but transportation will be provided, and a district-issued Chromebook will be provided for all students to take the test as well. Now, when is all this fun going to begin? We don't have an exact date yet. Again, here's where some of the flexibility has come in with the state. The state has said that PSSA testing will not begin before April the 19th. So well after spring break, which will give us some more time to practice with these online tools. Our Keystone window will not open until around the middle of May. So that'll give students some more time in Algebra 1 to get some more algebra under their belts and to have some review opportunities with their algebra teachers in the event that they are going to take the Keystone test. So we will develop a schedule, a very, very clear testing schedule, and we will communicate that with you. I want to let you know that the English, Reading, Language Arts, PSSA is given in 3 sections. We don't know if that means students will be coming in 3 days. We don't know if we're going to do all the testing in 1 day, which doesn't seem to be good from a pedagogical standpoint. But we will develop that schedule in concert with the district office, and we will communicate that with you. So the English is 3 sections. The mathematics PSSA is 2 sections, and the science section is 2 sections. And each section is roughly 1.5 to 2 hours in length. When we get to the Keystone testing, there is no time limit set for the Keystone testing. There are 2 modules for the Keystone testing, and each module is about 1.5 hours in duration. And that test can be extended as well over 2 days. So once we hammer out those details, we will communicate that to you. But to help in creating the testing schedule, you received a letter, March 12th, I believe was the date, that Dr. Smith, our assistant superintendent, sent out a letter on behalf of the Office of Education, asking families to complete a survey to help us better understand how many students will be coming in to take the test. And so if you have not had an opportunity to do that, there is a QR code on the next slide, which I hope will work. And if not, there's also a link that you can access to complete that survey. We are unable, unfortunately, to make informed decisions right now about testing days and dates until we're able to look at the data for how many people we will need to accommodate, in addition to those students who are already in the building. And finally, again, this is the same survey that was shared by Dr. Smith. And if you haven't filled it out, please do so. It's important data to help us move forward in our planning. If you want to take a screenshot of that link, that's great. Again, tomorrow I will resend this survey link in communication with the online assessment tool practice for those of you that might be interested in that. And again, I'll send home the frequently asked questions that have been provided to us by the state. So again, that was a very short presentation, but full. If you have any Q&As, you're welcome to write them in. There's the survey, what the survey looked like, and we will respond to those. So I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to give you an opportunity, if you have questions, to go ahead and enter them. We're happy to try to answer as many as we can. Or if using the chat feature is easier, we're happy to respond that way as well. Looks like a quiet crew tonight. Give it a couple more minutes in case something is percolating for you and you're trying to formulate that question. I totally understand it. My experience often is in about 10 minutes after we close this session, you'll think, oh yeah, I should ask Jim. I should have asked him that question. So I hope you all know by now that I'm happy to receive your emails and hear from you. And we will respond as quickly and as thoroughly to your questions as possible. All right, well, seeing no questions in the chat or in the Q&A, I want to again thank Ms. Cohen-Johnson and thank Mr. Ryan for being willing to be part of the panel. So Fanny, thanks for asking that question about Keystone tests required for graduation. I'm not exactly clear on that. Yes, I believe they are for algebra, for biology, and for literature. The state, as you know, continues to change their mind about how we're viewing keystones. The beauty is that if you opt out of the Keystone this year, if your student is taking algebra this year, there are plenty of opportunities for the student to take them again. They're given every year. I would recommend that if your student is taking Algebra 1 and you don't want to have them take it this year, the Keystone this year, that they wait until they get into Algebra 2 and take it at the end of Algebra 2, because that would be interrupted by a year of geometry. But again, if they take it this year and pass, great. If not, there are other options to take it. Yes, if you do not fill out a form, your student is in person, they will be tested. Yep, they will participate in the Keystone testing. Opting out is only for religious purpose. I'm concerned about the growing number of positive COVID cases. Understood, understood. And certainly that can be your reason, but the stated reason is per the FAQ. Let me just pull that up real quick so I can have the accurate information. Thank you for your patience while I find it. Here it is. May parents see the assessment? Yes, here's the answer. Yes, under one circumstance, school entities are required to have policies to ensure that parents or guardians have the right to review a state assessment during convenient hours from the time testing materials are received to the end of the makeup schedule in order to determine whether a state assessment conflicts with their religious belief. This is the only reason allowable under the regulation. Confidentiality agreements must be signed, and no copy of the assessment or notes about the assessment items will be permitted to leave the building. If, after reviewing the test, parents, guardians find the test to be in conflict with their religious belief and wish their student to be excused from the test, the right of the parent or guardian will not be denied upon written request to the school district. Superintendent, da, 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 da. So while I understand the concern about the increase of positive COVID cases, and I would argue that is a valid reason if that's why you're choosing to opt out. If it's not for religious purposes, it gets counted against the district as someone who just is quote unquote, refusing to take the test. So, opting out for religious purposes is a big, wide, broad umbrella, and anything can fit in there, I would think. So if but that is the official language from the state as around exemptions. And again, I can provide that FAQ again, that link again tomorrow in communication with you. All right, anything else? See, it just takes one to get the question started, and then they start coming, which is great. And again, I'd ask you to look back in your email for the letter from Dr. Smith, which was sent March 12th. Yes, for those of you who missed the beginning of this presentation, it is being recorded, and you can certainly go back and review that. The slide deck will also be sent to Mr. Kaufman, who will put it up on the district website, and that will be available to you as well. So again, let me thank Fanny. I believe that information, Ms. Tan, was in the district communication from Dr. Smith on March 12th. I will find out the answer to that question about what the cutoff is to opt out and let you know. Great question. You know, I take that back. I think in Dr. Smith's letter, it was the deadline for the survey to be completed, not for the opt-out procedure. So I will find that out. That's a great question and get back to you. The survey deadline, yes, the survey deadline is this Friday, which is Spring Break Friday. Let me just remind you that we're also having an early dismissal at 12 noon on Friday. So the survey deadline is this Friday, which is the 26th, Friday the 26th. Ms. Kelly, I see your hand up. If you could type your question in the answer in the Q&A box, we'll be able to respond to you there. And, or I think Ms. Kelly might have left the meeting. If you're here though and want to come off mute, Mr. Kaufman can do that as well. All right, friends. So let me again thank you for Ms. Cohen-Johnson, for Mr. Ryan for being here, for Mr. Kaufman, who's managed the whole behind the scenes. He's the Oz behind the curtain there. So grateful to Mr. Kaufman. And I also want to give a special shout out to Ms. Collins, our Director of Secondary Education. And I also want to give a shout out to our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Smith, who is a professional juggler, I feel like. She was able to gather all this information for us and making this presentation available, the bulk of the presentation. So thank you to Dr. Smith. Again, this has been recorded. You'll be able to have access to it, and I'll send out some additional information and follow-up information tomorrow to help you make an informed decision. Thanks again for joining us. Appreciate you all so much. Have a great evening. And remember, like I say to the students all the time, in a world where you can choose to be anything, choose to be kind. Have a great evening and thanks for coming. Stay safe. Good night.